Hi everyone, today I'm going to show you different floral compositions for borders and backgrounds. Welcome to my channel, I am Yen. First, prepare the following materials: watercolor paint, a pointed round brush. The size of the brush depends on the painting you want to make, a mixing palette, clean water, and watercolor paper, preferably at least 200 GSM. Now let's prepare our paint. The first floral composition is made of our roses and our 5-petal flowers. I'm going to make big dots that are wet and pigmented for the center of our first flower. And then I'm just gonna add more pigment to that. And then I'm going to clean my brush and load it with just water and then drag and pull. So we are just going to drag and pull the paint to create the petals. Now, if you want to achieve thicker petals, then just add more thin strokes. Apply this technique in painting the other petals. Now we're just gonna add an extra petal there to make the flower fuller. Now we're going to paint a rose. I'm loading my brush with carmine, the more pigmented one, to create the center of the rose. Roses are made of C strokes that are gradually becoming thicker outward. After a few strokes, you can add more water to your brush to create petals with lower tonal value. Also, you will notice that I've added a little yellow ochre on my brush to give the rose a nice blending of colors. Now continue adding watery C strokes for the outer petals of the rose. Now let's paint another rose here, still applying the same techniques that we've used in the first rose. Next is we're gonna add the leaves. This is a combination of green and carmine. I add leaves to wherever there are awkward spaces. So it's okay if the leaves overlap the flower, just as long as you're not covering a huge part of it. Also, I usually start with the bigger leaves first because it's easier to squeeze in smaller leaves later on. You can also use longer stems for some of the leaves just to show that they're still connected to your bouquet. Do not forget to add leaves on the sides. Try to make them look like they're sticking out of the flowers. Now let's add a different kind of leaf, this time thinner and longer. I'm using the same color, that's green plus carmine. I only added more water to give it a lower tonal value. This is because we do not want the leaves to overpower the flowers in the bouquet. Now, if there's still space, add the fillers. These are just small buds with long stems. I usually use darker colors for this to make sure that they're visible despite its very small size. So right now, I'm using a very pigmented lilac to paint the fillers. Make sure not to overdo it, so every now and then, check your painting from afar, and if you're okay with it, you can stop adding more elements. But if you're not okay with it, with the shape and the form of your bouquet, you can add more leaves or fillers, just like what I'm doing right now. Once you're okay with it, you can now add the details. Two things to remember whenever you're adding details. First is, the first layer should be dry before you add the details because we wouldn't want to ruin the first layer. Second, remember that the details always have a higher tonal value than the first layer because if not, it's not gonna be visible in the painting. Usually, the details are made of thin strokes, so make sure to control the pressure you apply on the brush, or you can use a smaller brush when doing this. Now let's try a different floral composition. This time, it's just made of roses, leaves, and fillers. Apply the same techniques we used in the first bouquet. Our third floral composition is a bouquet of 5 petal flowers. This is a perfect design for patterns and backgrounds. We are only using the same techniques that we used in our first floral composition, so we add more thin strokes to make the petals look thicker. So I'm adding more pigmented dots to add a little bleeding of colors from the center to the petals. Now let's paint another flower here, this time facing to the right. Make sure that all the petals are pointing to the right and that the left part of the flower, the left side, is blank. After painting the petals, make a vertical thin stroke that is slightly curved on the left side of the flower. Apply the same techniques to the other flower, but this time it should be facing to the left. Now we're gonna paint the stems using the combination of lilac and green. This is because we used lilac for the flowers. We first add those leaves that are attached to the stem, so we'll know where else we need to add fillers later on. Then we add more stems with leaves. So we want to make those leaves look like they're behind the flowers, so make sure that they do not overlap. Also, I'm painting leaves in different sizes and shapes to make the bouquet look like it has lots of different kinds of leaves. Now I'm adding leaves with lower tonal value as the final step. Our fourth floral composition is similar to our third, but this time we're gonna add roses. So we use the same techniques. When painting roses, you do not have to worry if your C-strokes overlap. Some students panic thinking that the roses look like blobs, but remember you're gonna add details later on. So that's going to help you define the petals in your roses. We're going to make this 5-petal flower look like it's facing upward. this one is going to be facing to the left. Now, our fifth floral composition is a linear bouquet with small flowers. This could be used as borders. So we're going to apply the same techniques on the flowers, leaves, and fillers. Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more tutorials.